Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive Papi, Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Papi.
Hey, yo. Let me talk to you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Wow, I am getting weird feedback, but welcome, true believers, to the All Alliance Marvel Team Up Annual 2-in-1 Spectacular Extravaganza issue number 1 with a variant cover or something. We're doing an All Alliance Guys show. I'm Tim from the Other Alliance Guys, joined by Dave from the Other Alliance Guys. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing well.
And Jaden from the OG original Alliance Guys. How you doing, buddy?
I was actually the second Alliance guy.
The second after DK?
After Jay.
Oh, well, I figured he was sort of like the patriarch and we all came from his loins, so to speak.
I was
Yes.
on the very second ever Alliance Guys radio because I listened to Jay, and then I figured I would call in on the next one because his first one he had Dave Marquez. He's been kind of stuck with me ever since.
Now, what is like 12, 13 years?
Oh, well, once it hits 13, it becomes glorious. Just heads up.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the time frame. Once it becomes over 13 or older, like longer, it's 13 glorious years. So hopefully,
Yeah,
that's Larry
fantastic.
Zabisco.
I think that's next year. I think that's 13 years, if I remember Jay correctly. But, you guys aren't on tomorrow night, so we thought let's get everybody in tonight. Jay will be on shortly, so will Jeremy. Hopefully DK drops by. In the chat right now, Doty's here saying hi and wants to know, is this Jaden After Dark?
It is Jaden After Dark, and Jaden needs a nap, bad, or at least some more caffeine. I need to block that adenosine.
You got to get the dubby. You got to stick the dubby in the cup and shake it all up.
I started adding dubby to the vodka, and I think that might be the problem.
We got James Bell in the house. Good to see you, my friend. And as mentioned, Jeremy will be here soon. Like I say, this is the end of year spectacular, although I'm not doing anything next week. Are you, Dave? I mean,
Nope.
do we just keep going? Maybe we do, but
I mean, we can. I mean, I'm not saying we don't go on air. I mean, we can go on, talk what's happening. Just
yeah.
go for it.
But this week, we're doing the year in review and some really basic Alliance awards, I called them, like I have the authority to do that or something, which is me saying that I don't. But I put some polls up on Twitter for some NWA awards, so to speak, for Announcer of the Year, Manager, Male and Female Talent. What else today? Well, we'll get through it when it's there, but we're going to go through the whole year in review, guys, and and speak up when I throw some stuff out there. We'll go month by month. Samar's here. If you haven't checked out Samar's All Retro Studio on YouTube, you need to. It's very cool.
Oh, that does look cool.
Yeah. And then we're going to look at NWA USA. I'll run through that. And when Jay's here, he'll run through Power. So we're kind of splitting the duties tonight. Good to see you guys in the chat. Thanks for being here. If you're here,
You said duty.
This is why you've made it almost 13 glorious years here.
Yeah. Witty repartee that you're getting from Jaden of the Alliance Guys.
That's right. So I don't know. What do you say? Should we just go right into the year in review? You want to go back and reminisce when times were good? They were pretty good last January.
We go back to 1987.
Yeah, January
It
'87.
was a good year.
Yeah, it was a good year. No, but there were a lot of positive things happening in January. Did I make a banner? I look at that. Ooh, this is a professional podcast. A lot of positive things were actually happening in January in the National Wrestling Alliance. We started this year with Trevor Murdoch, who had been the world's heavyweight champion since August of 2021. He won it from Aldous in St. Louis, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
in his hometown. Camille's also been champion at the start of January since June 6th of 2021. Obviously, still champion today. She won that from, I want to say, Serena Deeb at. That's how long ago she's been champion. She won it from Serena Deeb, guys, in When Shadows Fall. So she'll be champion for all of this year in 2022. Right now, by the way, she's 562 days as champion as of today. She's 7th on the all-time list right now. I figured if I divided the polls between female and male wrestler of the year. But if you were putting just overall wrestler of the year, you got to think, Dave, that Camille is a good candidate to top that list in the NWA.
Yes, I mean, she's defended the belt within the NWA and outside. She has become more well-spoken and is not just all look. That she'll back up what she needs to do in the ring. And I mean, she's coming into her own, and I mean, she's either 29 or 30. And I mean, unless she wants to move on from the NWA, she does the one time. I'd push her a little longer, and then, if need be, do an injury angle where she doesn't lose the title. She has to give up the title. So she was never beat for the Burke. It would just give some new blood into the NWA, female-wise, wrestler-wise. But I mean, I think she's doing a very good job for how young she is and how young she is in the business.
I would have put her on the list for most improved wrestler of the year if she wasn't world women's champion for the entire period. What's your call on this one, Jaden, for wrestler of the year? Does Tyrus beat her out? And I might make you laugh, but starting the year out as television champion, doing the whole Lucky 7 undefeated, and then winning the world's title.
Maybe Tyrus would win if this was a competition of buffet wrestler of the year, or most overrated wrestler of the year, or most overpushed wrestler of the year, the Ultimate Warrior Award.
Right.
But honestly, no, Tyrus doesn't deserve it. I think Camille probably does. I wish I could have said Murdoch if he would have had a real reign, or maybe even the Pope. But based purely on the actual talent that's been broadcast and pushed, it has to be Camille. And the reason she is getting better is because steel sharpens steel, and she's had some good competition that has kind of been above her level, but she's fought up to that level, and I think that's helped her improve tremendously. You got Chelsea Green, you got the match when she won it. She's also got Taya Valkyrie. Those are all really good challenger. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know what else? Tyrus doesn't rank for me either, but
he ranks. That's for sure. He ranks.
I mean, he doesn't.
He's very ranked.
For me, I counted up Homicide's defenses as world junior champion, and I counted 17 on Cage Match. And I think that's probably a better comparison by how he took it outside the NWA, how he fought it every single, like everybody in the NWA. It seemed like multiple times and just kept winning. So anyway, guess who's here? It's the boss.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Everyone look busy. I'm going to get rid of this banner so we can all be. There we go. Perfect. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, man. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. First time, long time.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just getting started. We're just starting with January and talking about a bunch of positive things that are actually happening in the NWA in January.
I was just listening to the conversation when you guys were talking about Camille, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. If she hadn't been so damn dominant, she probably would be most improved wrestler. But because she's so good in that division in the NWA, and she's making towns, guys. I heard you mention that too, but she's defended that title in Texas and in Tennessee and Florida, and she's in the UK right now defending that title. And then the fact of the matter, she's representing the NWA when she goes to AAA and faces Taya Valkyrie for the Reina de Reinas championship, or when she's in XPW in California. She's still wearing that Burke, and I think that needs to be celebrated and recognized as like, wow. Wouldn't you like your world's heavyweight champion to be doing something like that?
Sure would.
I want my champion nowhere near XPW, but that's just me.
Oh, fair enough. But I mean, there is precedent. I mean, Sabu was simultaneously the XPW world champion and the NWA world champion. So I mean, there is some precedent there, Jaden.
Doty says most improved, best wrestler, and face of the NWA. That's Camille.
Yeah, I don't think you could argue with that.
Yeah, and recently in the UK. What else is happening in January? I'm going to have to push this. So, Jay, do me a favor. If you want to throw up the comments as they come along, that'd be awesome because we got a lot to get through here.
I can be the producer. I can pull up comments, no problem.
Appreciate that. Thank you. You're better at it than I am too. I go, let's go back at the 80 comments that I missed while I was blabbing.
It's an art.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, I mean the NWA still at GPB Studios in Atlanta back in January. You had NWA USA debut. The first match was Colby Carino versus C.W. Anderson. So that was fun. Look who's here. It's one of the OGs.
Hey, I know that guy.
How you doing, DK?
Really? Well, I suppose better when I remembered that this one had an earlier start time than ours did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I want to point out Rosville's here. Thank you for being here. Matt Vermillion, I'm not familiar. Glad you're here. Maybe he's an OG NWA fam guy.
Matt's jumped on a lot of our Alliance Guys podcasts, but I haven't seen Matt in a while. So, hey, welcome to the show, Matt.
Nice. So, we got NWA USA debuting in January. There's lots of talk about how the NWA is advancing their access. Remember, we're speaking as if we're still in January. We're
you might not want to give to charities because you're afraid.
The positive stuff that's still going on. They're advancing, the product through Fight. There's a lot of talk still in January about the history, the legacy, the tradition, and that coming out of that 10 pounds of gold from a year or so before that series. Tyrus has been the world television champion at this point since June 5th, 2021. And where he defeated Pope on Power. He will remain champion 475 days. He will be 5th on the list for number of total days. Jay's rubbing his eye, DK shaking his head. What do you think about when Tyrus is in January at this point, DK? What are your thoughts around him back then, if you can go back that far?
Well, I can barely go back to yesterday. But if I try really hard and go back to January, I mean, honestly, my thoughts in January are pretty much the same as my thoughts shortly after he won it, which is, why is he the champion? I suppose my next thoughts are, why does he never defend the belt? Because he, on average, defended once every 2 months. And my last thought was, the guy gets winded going up the steps. I mean, he was not in good shape when he won the title. And he's in much better shape today.
Well, DK, round is technically a shape, right?
I'm not sure, but it's not. It wasn't even round. He was more pear. Is pear shape? I don't know. Maybe
Pear's a shape.
So he certainly wasn't my idea of what you wanted in that title position. In fact, I'll say something a little controversial here. He's a better fit as the world champion than he was as the world TV champion.
I kind of agree with you on that, DK.
I'm not saying
I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but like, the TV title historically has always been on a guy who could work, right? It's almost like the equivalent of the Intercontinental Championship. When you don't look back in the olden days of the NWA, I mean, you had like Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, guys that worked as that TV champion. And in the more modern time, you know, I would like to have believed that if we had not faced a global pandemic, that Zicky Dice and Ricky Starks would have probably exchanged that title quite a few times before the Pope ended up getting it. And I think having the Pope as a TV champion made a lot of sense because he was working all the time. But then you get a guy like Tyrus who, you know what, the world's heavyweight champion isn't supposed to wrestle every week. He's not supposed to be every other week. He's a featured attraction. He's for pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. That's right up Tyrus's alley.
Yeah, I don't. It does, I guess, sound controversial, but I don't think it is. I think you're bang on. It does make a lot more sense as world champ, but he is television champ back in January. You got Matt Cardona stalking around Murdoch at this point. There's some good young talent in January too. Jay Spade's on the scene. He's going to end up winning that shot at the World Junior. Arya Davari's around. Why are you laughing?
Well, first of all, I forgot Davari was even on the roster in January.
Yep.
The magic carpet ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Secondly, we talked about Jay Spade winning that title shot. And I remember at the time thinking, you know, why are they crowning a number one contender before they even crown a champion? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But then we never saw Jay Spade ever again. Just disappeared.
Now, Dave, when you were in New Orleans, you mentioned this to Jay. Jay Spade. What did he say to you about the title shot? As I
asked him about it, he goes, well, I'm sort of busy now as a tag team champion, but they still owe me a shot. He goes, I don't know when or where, but I'm still owed a shot. And he said he'd love to wrestle Kerry Morton or whoever holds the belt.
Right.
And I mean, it's one of these things of just follow through on storylines. It's the little things. It's keep that continuity going. That even on, I believe on the pay-per-view that they did make mention, that Joe made mention, Jay Spade, he won a chance at the junior heavyweight title before a champion was crowned. So it's been mentioned. Let's just hope they follow through with it. Because he can't go.
Yeah, he certainly can. Chris Adonis has been, at this point, NWA national champion, speaking of not defending, in January since the previous June. And we'll get to him in a couple of minutes. The Hex have been World Women's Tag Team champions since August in 2021. They'd go 287 days, by the way. But some of the younger talent we mentioned, Arya Davari, Mims, and Marche Rocket they're firing on all cylinders. No pun intended. Back in January for Rocket, and there's like Raven is around. He hasn't disappeared at this point. He.
I forgot Raven was involved.
Yeah. He just. I remember he had an operation and then he was gone.
What about me? What about Jason? Sorry.
NWJ.
I missed you. I missed you so much, DK. That disapproving frown on his face. The head shake. Oh, I've missed it so.
What else do we have at this time? Aldous is out of Strictly Business in January.
Now we got the NWA business in whatever month we're in.
That's right. He's reformed the British Invasion at this point with Doug
Williams.
Williams, thank you. And what else? What else was going on? Oh, the Fixers get their first of 17,000 Power Surge episodes, so that's fun. But they're hot right now, the Fixers, and I'm like these guys are fun back in January, and that will certainly fade for me throughout the year. But a lot of positivity, I thought, really happening in January. And then, of course,
who is always positive? Iron Sheik. He's always positive. Sheik, he's positive. How could it be bad to be positive?
Except when it comes to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Hey, Lamb is here. Hey, Lamb.
Oh, yeah.
Lamb.
Lamb, you want to jump on, man? I'll shoot you the link.
Yeah, you got the link in the Discord, my friend. Jump on.
I'll say this about Nick Aldis and Pollo and I kind of debated this a few days ago on an episode of the original Alliance guys, and we talked about, do you think Nick Aldis could have been content in a role that did not include him in the world title hunt? And now, I mean, none of us know him personally, right? But I really felt like had the NWA kept the British invasion intact and not moved on from Murdoch and Cardona and let that simmer a little bit instead of putting Aldis into that equation, and just let the British invasion go through the Crockett Cup, perhaps winning it, maybe getting a title shot against La Rebellion and winning it instead of the Commonwealth connection. Do you think that would have satisfied Nick Aldis?
If you're asking me, no.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of similarities that can and have been drawn between Nick Aldis and a Ric Flair type. I don't think Ric Flair would ever have been content to be a World Tag Team Champion. What do you guys think?
I'm not so sure. And the problem is that there was no storylines that ever really involved anything other than some of these people being world champion or kind of a blood feud, which was a horrible blood feud that he had with Latimer and Aldis. But I don't think you put a different title on him. Like, you don't make him national champion, but if you put like the world tag team title on him, I think you can get 6 months of, story and him kind of there and near the top, but not the top, guy. And so, and then it becomes more interesting when he decides to come back after the world title afterwards, assuming that, they would book things right, which of course with Billy, we have no faith that might happen. So, everything's about how you're used, what you're done. Nick is still in that kind of prime year area. Hasn't made it into his mid-40s yet, when they should be fading out and stop working. Intent to some of the people. And, I just don't know. I mean, Jaden, what would you do with Nick Aldis?
Oh, I think he would have been a great tag champ because I think of it like this: wasn't in this business a bigger ego than Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes loved being a tag champion. He loved being the World Six-Man Tag Team Champion. He loved being the World TV Champion. He loved being the National Heavyweight Champion. He loved being the United States Heavyweight Champion. If he could fit it around his waist, he probably would have won that ugly crowned NWA Junior Heavyweight title. And I think Aldis has a thing where nothing's going to replace Big Charlotte to be the World Heavyweight Champion. If he can't hold that, he wants to have some gold around his waist. And tag team title would have been great for him for a short time. I don't think it would have been a long-term solution for Nick Aldis, but I think it could have helped him, and I think it could have helped the tag championship, and I think it could have helped the NWA because it would have firmly got him out of the picture without having the stupid reason as in, I'm done challenging Murdoch for now, but I don't want the title now. But when I want it, it'll be different. But right now, I don't want it.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit hokey too. I think he should have just said, "Hey, look, I've held tag team titles in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I've held titles in Impact. I've held titles in Pro Wrestling Noah. I would like to add to my resume and become an NWA World Tag Team Champion. And who better than my partner, Doug Williams? I think that they could have, had they done it correctly, they could have done a lot with that and got a lot of mileage out of it.
And they still could have Davey Boy. They could have used Freebird rules. Not my favorite thing, but it's something. But anyway, I'd rather much have Davey Boy versus fighting against Trevor Murdoch as a challenger.
Same.
But either way, they could have added him to the faction, and they still could have made it work.
Lamb mentioned La Rebellion, and they had been champions since '73, August 2021. So their first reign at this point goes 286 days. And their second reign is not till this past August. It's 115 already. So they're doing all right. But they're your champs at this point as well. Lamb mentions a thank you to the entire team to do this today. And there's no set point in this show to, thank Lamb and Chris Flackett and everybody who's part of this, including everybody who's here right now and some of those who aren't. Maybe you want to spear that one, Jay, with what Lamb does and Chris as well.
If you guys have only been checking out our YouTube or our Spotify or the audio version of the podcast, the video version of the podcast, you're only getting about half of what's going on with the Alliance. We are bigger and better than ever before because not only do you have the 5, sometimes 6 gentlemen here who talk to you about the NWA on a weekly basis, but we also have 2 more guys, Chris and Lamb, who are very much a part of this Alliance Guys family. We are all Alliance guys, but Lamb and Chris are writing about not just the NWA, but also we're writing about MLW. They're writing about Memphis Championship Wrestling, or Championship Wrestling from Memphis. They're writing about the United Wrestling Network, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Lamb does a lot on SoCal Wrestling, which is, I find that to be completely awesome because number 1, he lives in Germany. And number 2, the SoCal guys love him so much that they actually printed a shirt that says, "I'm a Lamb some guy." You guys see me wear it from time to time because I had to get on that too because I thought that was just so awesome that the SoCal, and I don't want to say these are veterans. These are kind of the new faces in the crowd. These are the rookies, if you will, of Southern California, and they're like adopting Lamb as like the champion who writes about them, who gives them publicity. And these guys are the future of the Southern California wrestling scene, which means that could be the future of the United Wrestling Network. And some of these guys may end up in the NWA at some point. So it's pretty cool that we have a core group of not just the 6 guys you see here on the TV right now or YouTube, whatever, but we also have some writers on staff as well. We're really trying to help promote pro wrestling. Yes, the emphasis is on the NWA, but we're really writing and talking about pro wrestling because we want to see the wrestling get better in 2022.
And this guy who's joined us right now. So, sorry, Jaden. This guy who joins us right now is Mr. UWN. He covers the UWN for the other Alliance guys. And He's going to be doing his own stuff on his channel soon. How are you, Jeremy?
I am doing good, and you guys?
We're
his own channel.
We're all good. This is the craziest the screen has ever looked to me. 6 faces, man.
Well, 6 people.
5 faces and a logo, but it's pretty awesome.
There's
we need 3 more. Wait a minute. We need 3 more so DK can be Alice.
There you go.
Everybody look in the direction that
The Alliance bunch. The Alliance guys. That's the way we became the Alliance guys. Do 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 do.
Well, okay, thank you for coming to the show. It's apparently now over.
Yeah.
Well, the first time we killed a show, huh, DK?
No, we're not.
Hey,
so listen. We went through January. Let's go through February quick.
Why?
Can I bring up one more point? I don't know if you already touched on this, but it's something that I looked up today, and I have to say it, that they started off filming their matches in December for January, just like they're doing right now.
Yeah.
That's not the big surprise, but what I find was kind of funny is that in the month of January, they were still showing matches from the 73rd anniversary show where they were filming, pretty much nonstop, for Power Surge and stuff like that. They were still filming matches from St. Louis some 7 months later. And I thought that was kind of funny and ironic. You have to do what you have to do to stretch out the content, but it's like, wow, why are we still looking at Tim Storm wrestling in front of nobody? I don't get it.
Yeah. Hey, Jam and Music Man. He's up right now in the chat. Pretty sure this is the guy who's got Scion doing his the intro for his channel. That's amazing if you haven't seen it. February, Jeremy, you got the NWA USA. It's a new show. It's focusing on the World Junior Title Tournament, which I thought was an upside for that show for the whole year. While Power goes in, they start with Team War. What do you think of those 2 events? I think they're different, shall we say?
That was the first Team War that we saw, correct?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible. It just insert dumpster fire of the week right here for that,
Yeah.
But I feel that they learned from that, and with the second iteration of it that we got, it was a lot better thought out, I feel, and a lot better executed. The focus on the junior heavyweight tournament, I enjoyed that a lot. It was a lot of good fun. We got introduced to some new wrestlers. It was a win-win for them in that situation. The Team War thing, not so much. But again, they came out with the second one and did a lot better with it, I feel.
Did you guys kind of feel like we got sold a false bill of goods when they were saying how there was going to be a greater emphasis on the junior heavyweight division on USA, and there was going to be a greater emphasis on the national title on USA? And then it was just pretty much everything that was the same thing about Power, just maybe lower marquee matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that goes back to that Carney mentality that Billy has, though. Just get him in the door. That's all I need to do is get him in the door. After that point, I've already got your money.
That's true.
Well, I do think they started it that way.
Yes.
And they did, yeah.
USA, when it started, was actually a pretty decent little show.
A
Running
lot
30 minutes, only having 2 to 3 matches. Most of them were good. Most of them, they didn't go too long, but they weren't too short either. Wasn't as much talking in the beginning, although they kind of went back to that. So when it started out right. That it's like Billy only knows how to do one thing.
Fuck up. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that.
That's the show, everyone. Good night.
I mean, Billy kind of only knows how to do one thing, and so that's just where he ends up going whenever he does it. I mean, Mr. Scooby up there. I mean, did you watch do you feel like it just trended from, hey, this is kind of new and what we were told, to, hey, this is the same crap we always get?
It's basically, it was his shiny new toy. He played with it for a while, scuffed it up a little, and then set it off to the side where he could reach it if he wanted.
Yeah.
It was always within sight, but it wasn't out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
It was one of these things of he'll use it to his advantage when he needs to. Now, I actually do like that they're keeping the continuity this month in doing all of the Champions Series.
Yeah.
That it covers everything. But when it first came out, I'm like, okay, cool, junior heavyweights. It's not going to be all about the big guys. Let's see some action in the ring, and some of these younger wrestlers, let's see what they have.
And everything was separate too, Dave. Like, you had Tim Storm was going to be over here in Power, and Medusa was going to run NWA USA, and the national champ was going to be here. The world champ was going to be there. And, do you guys remember Nick Aldis at one point coming on to USA and going, I had to come here to get airtime because, Billy won't give me airtime up on, the show where the world champions. Like, it was separate. And now it's just whatever. It was like the WWF, second-rate matches after a while on those Saturday morning shows.
Yeah.
The Macho Man versus Barry Horowitz,
Oh, jeez.
But listen.
Yeah, they really should have did Macho Man versus El Dandy, because nobody should definitely underestimate El Dandy.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy?
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? So listen, we're in February. What else is happening? The Crockett Cup gets announced. Where am I? Oh, that's right. Matt Cardona wins the NWA World Championship at the Power taping in Oak Grove, I think. Murdoch's reign, his first reign, which was not as good as his second at the time. We were all a little disappointed back then at the end of it. It ends after 154 days, and the NWA kicks off the Matt Cardona experiment. What did you guys think at the time? Jay, what did you think when the strap got put around Cardona's waist?
So, I think I feel the same way now as I did then. I felt like it was good in theory, but I feel like the execution was poor. You basically had Cardona telling anyone that would listen that the NWA was garbage, that the NWA had potential, but it had lost its way, and it needed Cardona as champion to be relevant, to be important, which totally shits on everything that anyone else ever has done in the NWA. I mean, that puts Murdoch in bad light, that puts Aldis in bad light, and it puts, even Cody in a sense in bad light, because none of those champions could save the NWA. It had to be Matt Cardona. I know that Matt Cardona has such a huge following that they were hoping that would translate to more viewers, more buys. But I believe DKM said this, the more we saw him exposed through GCW, through Impact, the less special he became. And so, yeah, he was our world champion, but he was showing up at GCW shows not wearing the 10 pounds of gold, but wearing the digital media title for Impact. Or he'd show up in GCW with his own internet woo-woo championship. And I just felt like it really didn't catch fire the way it should have. Like I said earlier, Camille showing up in Mexico with the Burke in tow, showing up at XPW with that prestigious title around her waist. Had Matt Cardona done that with the 10 pounds of gold, it might have been more impactful for the NWA. But I also get that, maybe that's not what Billy wanted, and maybe that's not what Cardona agreed to.
Good luck, Jaden. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. You guys hearing that?
I am too. Here, I'm gonna mute myself.
I think it's you, Dave. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it is. I'm unmuted, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this kicks it off, and it's, at the time I thought it was going to be interesting, but inevitably it was. I think most of us felt like you did. It didn't go the way that we'd hoped it would go. Jaden is apparently drunk now, according to his name thing. But that's what happened. That's where we were in February. Chris Adonis. Christy Janes is wrestling in February. I had completely forgotten this.
Yeah.
As Christy Janes.
Wow. Not Bubblegum or CJ?
Not Bubblegum or CJ. Dave, you wait. Can you mute your mic for a second, Dave? I don't know if you can. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. March, you know what? This was a very special time for Jeremy because Anthony Mayweather wins the national title on an episode of Power Trip and goes an incredible 36 days as champion until Jack Steen cashes in on the greatest cash-in in wrestling history, by the way.
37 days too long.
I was the only one who called that.
You were the only one who called that.
That is true.
Dane will go 160 days, but it's a very short reign for Anthony Mayweather. Aldis is feuding with Latimer in March. We all know, I think, about that particular feud. Now, I don't know if you guys remember some of this, but Magic Jake appears as a character, but has already appeared throughout the year as Fable Jake, and is sort of rebranded as Magic Jake, the magician that we know and love today. And he starts getting a push for the months ahead under this new character. AJ Kazana shows up as well. And we get the Crockett Cup, in just to focus on the big one in March, which in addition to the Briscoes winning the Crockett Cup, which I think is worth talking about, something you said yesterday, Jay, about how it was important to bring in them and having them win was the right thing to do. But Homicide also at that event, before we get into that, starts an amazing 237-day, and I counted 17 title defenses as World Junior Champion. That's also, by the way, where Dane wins the national title, I think. So the Briscoes, they come in, they win the Crockett Cup. They basically leave after appearing and failing to win the titles the following month, though. What'd you guys think of Crockett Cup this year? Dave, what did you think of Crockett Cup right off the bat?
Well, I'm almost speechless on how they did it. I thought it was stretched out a little too much, that when they do the 2-day pay-per-views, I'd rather see a good 8 to 10 matches on the first day and then cut it down to maybe 6 the next day, where you have your qualifying matches the first and then your basic finals on the second day, that you highlight it, that you could still have, if you're, granted, you are doing Crockett Cup, but have some of your other titles highlighted that first day, just so you can have a title change if need be. But it's the Crockett Cup. you are pushing the Crockett Cup. I thought it was good that they had the Briscoes win, but they never followed up with anything. And I mean, you have to make sense of what your storylines, what direction they're going. That to have them win, granted, I know they aren't signed to the NWA, but to have them win and then not showcase them over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. They don't have to win. They don't have to win a championship. They won the cup. Have them build up a couple other teams on their way out. They don't have to lose, but not every team that gets built up or every wrestler that gets built up is winning every match.
Jay, I wanted to ask you about it too, because you mentioned it yesterday, like I said, and I thought it was the right thing to do as well. If like, especially for situations like now, where we all hear FTR is just biding their time until they're out of AEW, and you know, with the Briscoes not being an NWA tag team and winning the Crockett Cup, that's got to be something that a team like FTR would be interested in doing, right?
Absolutely. And it's the thing about it too, when we look about 2022, we look at the Crockett Cup. Remember, Ring of Honor was kind of done. I mean, we didn't really know what was going to happen next with Ring of Honor going into Crockett Cup. We didn't know, Tony Khan would eventually buy Ring of Honor and then start signing a lot of those talents back up. So we didn't know what the status was going to be for them boys until they were signed. And so I feel like I think the NWA wanted to do more with them. I just think the availability became an issue. Of course, I think they worked a few dates with Impact as well, right?
Yep.
But
they won the Impact tag titles.
Yeah, when you are a company promoting a tag team tournament, I feel like for the NWA's benefit, this should have been a tag team tournament filled with tag teams throughout the country, not just NWA roster tag teams. And that's why I felt like it was so important that you had the Briscoes on this card. I also felt like they could have done themselves a favor by booking some more tag teams who weren't necessarily a part of the brand. Now, we did see some talents from the Northeast show up. We did see some guys show up who weren't previously associated with the NWA, but this was also at the same time where the Hardys had just signed with AEW. They just had reunited. Wow, how amazing would it have been to see the Hardys in this tournament? I know that's kind of, pie in the sky type thinking, but I feel like for this tournament to be credible and really monumental, something that nobody else can replicate would be to do these tournaments bigger and bigger every year. So in 2023, if the NWA does do a Crockett Cup, you have to have FTR on this card, and you have to have some as the biggest tag teams that you can get. And I don't care if it's if it's lesser known guys that were released from the WWE or AEW guys who are only working part time, or Ring of Honor guys who are able to work elsewhere. I think the best tag teams should be represented, and that should be the showcase, the cup. To Scooby's point, they should have broken down the matches a little bit different. They should have put a bigger emphasis on the title matches on night one and the tournament on night two. You could have done your prelim matches on night one with like the world title match between Aldis and Cardona, and then on night two should have been the bigger focus on the tag titles and the importance of those, in my opinion.
My only issue is I just don't know how realistic anymore getting other big tag teams that are other places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I've said it multiple times. The original Crockett Cup ran 3 years, and by its third year, it was barely able to pull in the number of teams that they normally had.
But they had the Mexican Twin Devils.
Exactly.
I don't even remember the Mexican Twin Devils. Who the hell were they?
I mean, people
The same
forget
guys
that
that were the Cruel Connection or the Gladiators or
okay.
It was some combination of guys under gimmicks.
All right.
They had Sam Houston and Nelson Royal as a tag team in it. Denny Brown and somebody else as a tag team.
We had Aaron Stevens in the Blue Meanie.
We had Aaron Stevens in the Blue Meanie. Oh my gosh, let's try not to remember that. I blot these things out of my mind, Jay. But my point is, historic people always remember the first Crockett Cup, and they kind of forget that the next two actually weren't that good, and the first one didn't even draw that well.
I don't know what you're talking about, DK. The third Crockett Cup was the birth of Mulkey Mania.
I remember that moment.
Yeah, I mean, so I do think there's some rose-colored glasses when looking at the Crockett Cup from those days. It was never really. I mean, people forget that the team that won the third one wasn't a team going into the tournament. They both had other partners, and let's be realistic. I always say half the teams have to lose the first round. In any tournament, half the people have to lose. So you got to bring in people that are going to lose. That's just the nature of it. Look through any great tournament, and you're going to find people that probably are going to, that you go, why are they there? Now, they'll do the occasional upset, oh, I can't believe they made it to round 2 or whatever, and then they get destroyed in round 2. To this year's Crockett Cup, I think they executed as well as they were going to be able to, as far as who was going to win, how all that was going to break down. I mean, they basically did what, Kevin and I and Jay talked about. The Briscoes were in one bracket, and they won. Tag team champions were in another bracket. They lost in the semifinals. So that gave you 2 challengers for the World Tag Team Championship. Now, if you had thought this out well enough to where you had paid enough money to make sure the Briscoes were going to be at your next pay-per-view event, you would have put them against whoever the tag champions were at the pay-per-view event, the next pay-per-view event. Instead, the Briscoes challenged during the TV tapings and, of course, lost, which makes it interesting because the NWA now is the one place the Briscoes have gone and not won tag team gold. So, I mean, you could actually market that if you wanted to. But then, the champions eventually did defend against the people that beat them in the tournament, and they lost the titles. You can make an argument whether it was the right team or not. It was probably the best they had at the time. And, if I told you I remember much else about the shows altogether, I'd be lying.
Well, listen, it's hard to. I looked back at this year to make some of these notes, and I did not remember a good 50% of this stuff, let alone anything else. Like along the same period, like March, April, right? You've got Caprice Coleman making his debut at NWA USA in a very short-lived appearance from Darius Lockhart, who was here. He had a cup of coffee. Off he was gone. Kylan King first showed up at this time. You're shaking your head no.
Kylan was at the 73rd anniversary. She was a part of the women's tag team tournament.
Re-debut, should we say then? It's
Fair
been
enough.
a while. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But we also
First
had
time she meant anything.
Right. We also had the start of some of the less favorite stuff. We had Gag's debut in April. Gags the Gimp first appeared and I can see at least two of you rising up, three now. Yeah, Darius Lockhart, such a wasted opportunity.
Dave Scooby apparently is a
Darius
closet gag
Lockhart
fan.
and less gags.
What was that, Jaden?
I said, can we get more Darius Lockhart and less gags in 2023?
Please.
Yeah.
No promises. But we also, hey, listen, they made up for it because they gave us Velvet After Dark, guys.
Get the fuck out.
Is that an STD?
I have no comment on that whatsoever.
Possibly.
You've got VAD.
Oh my God.
For it.
STD with a VAD.
I mean, it was a bit of a downer month, or at least it would turn out that way. Angelina Love makes her debut in April. That doesn't really catch any fire. Aaron Stevens is doing that whole insane Shakespearean actor kind of deal. He's so talented, and it just seemed like wasted, material on that guy. But Scoob, Trevor Murdoch's doing his rage face Trevor Murdoch right now. He destroys like Aaron Stevens and the Pope, and it was the start of the Trevor Murdoch that we ended up wanting to see all of this time. Were you happy with the Murdoch that appears post title loss?
Yes. I mean, he's a Harley guy. If he does 50% of what Harley would do, I mean, just walk in, kick ass, walk out. Him having the title the second go around brought that out in him, but he's truly one of those guys that doesn't need a title. A title can help him, but he helps the title more. That whoever beats him for the title, it's up to them to keep the value of that title going from Trevor to whoever the next title holder is. And I'm hoping, I mean, Tyrus has a following, but I'm not sure it's the following that the NWA needs.
They call that gravity, Dave Scooby. That following's probably a lunar body like a moon. Something circling him in his equator.
This is the Willie Bowen joke of the day, and in Willie's absence. Listen, let's push on. You guys speak up as we go. If I don't point to you and you want to say something, Mims in May. Okay, so listen, Mims has some potential at this point, and that has been untapped, and he starts a feud with Tyrus in May or over the TV title and gets into that slam challenge where, whether or not you want to call it a slam, I can't pick up Tyrus. Did a good job as far as I was concerned. Mickey James was in action at this point. On the downside, the Mortons began their never-ending, god-awful feud with the Fixers. It just will not stop. Harry Smith is in at this point in May to take over for Aldis in the Commonwealth Connection. And you get some good traction out of the Cardonas, and Colby Carino starts coming around. Kylan King, Max the Impaler debuts, and we get that Scion versus Alonzo match, which was certainly Powers for me, that first one, the match of the year. Max the Impaler, Jeremy, when they showed up, you and I were like, oh my God, this is going to be good. Do you think that Max has reached their potential in the NWA in the time that's passed?
I don't feel that they've reached their potential yet, but I'm holding out hope that that's coming in the new year. Huge upside to Max the Impaler. doesn't need to deliver a promo, doesn't have to talk or anything. Just go out there and smash, and they do that perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. I mentioned Mims because come June, that's really ramping up with Tyrus, and they really are making him a worthy challenger for the TV title, which they did a good enough job where I was going, is he going to do it? Is that actually going to happen? I bought it. I was hoping that I remember when that pay-per-view came up, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but it was now or never. Yeah, it was now or never for Mims. It had to happen, and it just didn't. But we'll get to that. Who did we get in June?
First question though.
Yeah.
Was that a mistake, lost opportunity on their part? I see Jay nodding yes, and of course, obviously, I'm asking because I think it was.
Yeah.
But, for the rest of you out there, should Mims have somehow, even if it was a screw job, one of Tyrus's guys accidentally tripped him, or something, was there a chance there that they should have let Mims win the title? And I know they played the title into him eventually winning the world title, but they could have done something else. He could have got the title back. Something. But I feel like there was an opportunity in this point that they could have gotten Mims over in a big way and made him a solid middle card guy instead of kind of where he's at right now, where he's still kind of basically barely above enhancement talent.
He definitely feels like he's still floundering a bit. And I think that a lot of that has to do with because they didn't even give it to him for a show. He could have lost it and then Tyrus immediately next week, your ass is mine, and gets it back. But it creates legitimacy for Mims.
The way I see it, and I agree with you, Jeremy, there were so many times that they could have made somebody with Tyrus that they just chose not to. And Mims was that guy. They were leveraged in on him. We all bought it. I did the hook, you did the reel. They had us all thinking that Mims was going to do it. And had Mims won that match, we'd be looking at Mims the same way we're looking at Jordan Clearwater, whether he kept the title for a day, a week, a month, or a year. We would have been like, wow, Mims did it. He beat Tyrus. And yes, that could have curtailed the steam that Tyrus had going into Hard Times and maybe even the anniversary show. However, they gave him that title match at the anniversary show, and it had nothing to do with him being TV champion. It had nothing to do with it. Billy Corgan just said, yeah, we're going to put the match with Tyrus. We're taking all this out of the equation. We're going to put Tyrus in the equation. That's it. That's all they did. Him being TV champion was irrelevant for the anniversary show, and they could have had that momentum going for Hard Times 3, saying, hey, you know what? You won, Murdoch, but you didn't beat me. You didn't beat me. We could do this again. You didn't beat me, but you won, Murdoch. And they could have had that same build, the same almost verbatim of what they did, but you would have had Mims as television champion. And in that time, a nice feud could have developed between Mims and Jordan Clearwater, Mims and AJ Kazana, Mims and anybody as your TV champion. And I felt like that was totally a missed opportunity.
Completely. And everything. That's the thing about wrestling. If you just keep it simple like that, the way that you explained it, there was no big hills or anything to climb over or anything to get to the story. Just keep it simple. That's all we need. Tell the story in the ring and give us a little bullet points here and there on a mic. But the real story happens in the ring. And a lot of that gets lost nowadays across all of them, not just the NWA. It's an epidemic in all of them.
I remember. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Earlier, someone had asked, when we're talking about Cardona, somebody had asked a question about, did Cardona do more or less than like Tommy Rich's title reign or Ronnie Garvin's or whatever? And I would compare it more to Ronnie Garvin in that somebody who I think you would have fans that would want to see win the title, but then when they won it, nothing developed out of it. I mean, everybody knew when Garvin won that he was losing it to Ric Flair at Starrcade. Everybody knew it, you know. And then they did horrible booking around it. And then, so we kind of had the same thing with Cardona. It was like, oh, Cardona, he's this big, hot, you know, indie guy. And so we're going to rush the title on him. So they rushed the title on him. He's losing to women in Impact. He's, you know, game changer, which, you know, everybody's talking about being the next big thing. And I think even some of the luster's already gone off of them. I don't hear nearly as much about them as I used to. And, you know, I guess he took the title to Game Changer, but he didn't take the title to Impact. And he would go other places, and, you know, he held several small independent promotion titles, which nobody knows what they were or cared about. And there just wasn't there. Whereas, and the reason I'm bringing this up, I think they could have done with Mims what they did with Tommy Rich. Tommy Rich won the title, because it gave the fans a chance. You know, you had to do something with them. There was a lesson that was learned with Jerry Lawler. Lawler chased the world title for so long, by the time he won it, nobody gave a crap.
Yeah.
And, you know, they had to create a world title for him, and nobody gave a crap. And so we had this chance now with Rich. Him holding the title for 4 days elevated him, because they kept referring to him when he didn't hold the national title or another belt there in Georgia. They kept referring to him as the former world champion. Former world champion Tommy Rich. Here's Gordon Soley, you know, bringing Tommy Rich in. Tommy Rich would do one of his fired up promos and go off, and Gordon Soley. And that was former world heavyweight champion Tommy Rich.
Yeah.
I mean, it made Tommy Rich's career, and to the point where when he was wrestling Ric Flair in the Golden Boy matches, a lot of people forget that sold out places all across the South, in the Georgia, Mid-Atlantic areas and stuff like that. Tennessee, Alabama, some of the places where they could cross over, because that was their, you know, that was the Golden Boy thing. And Rich had won the title, and he could win it again. Well, for some behind the scenes reasons, that never happened. But, you know, that was something that was built. I don't feel like Cardona was, I don't feel like Cardona was used right. And really at this point, you know, he's already talking about hopefully maybe going back to the WWE, and I don't know if he will or not. I don't know if they want him or not. They supposedly want his wife. It could be a package deal. We all know how that goes. Well, and look, I don't turn it. If you're paying me the right amount of money, I'll become WWE's biggest fan.
Yeah.
You know, we all got a price, let's be honest. And, you know, it's a business. Again, Gorilla Monsoon to Bobby Heenan. If you ain't doing this to make money, you're a fool.
Yep.
Get enough hot dogs and nachos, I'll throw on that Gimp mask and hop in the ring, damn it.
Yeah. And so the other thing is, unfortunately, guys, I do have another commitment that has suddenly come upon me, and I am going to have to drop out.
All right. Thanks, DK. Good seeing you, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Merry Christmas, DKM.
Merry Christmas to all the Alliance guys. Merry Christmas to all the Alliance fans. And most importantly, I take a size extra large in shirts if you want to send me a gift. Bye.
See ya. You know, to his point, with like, you know, with going back to the WWE for Cardona or not, and kind of that being about money. I always remember very vividly. My oldest kid was a really good football player, and you know, he's like we were seemingly born and bred Philadelphia Eagles fans, despite our geographic, you know, proximity, which is nowhere near Philadelphia. And he said, "Dad, what if I got drafted by the Dallas Cowboys?" And I said that I'm getting a cowboy hat, and, you know, yeehaw, son, we're going to Dallas, right? We're gonna buy a horse and everything, man. Like, you go where the money is. Well, I wouldn't hold it against Zack Ryder, if you want to call him that, if he goes back there. Hey, Paladin's here. Anyway, look, we're not even into July yet, though. What's happened in June? Oh, yes. Hey, by the way, we got Taya Valkyrie. We got the Hatchet Sam Shaw in June. We get Brian Myers and Anthony Andrews are also around at the same time. But Matt Cardona is injured, I guess, in a GCW match. And he vacates that title at Always Ready. You know who else debuts? Is the Thrillbilly and Pollo Del Mar, friend of the Alliance. Hope to see her tonight, but no such luck yet. You know what I remember most from this particular month? The one moment I remember, despite all of these talents and pay-per-views or whatnot, is Jack Stane popping the trunk on Eric Jackson. Like, that was just
ridiculous.
I thought he hurt him.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was worried he might have decapitated the poor lad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a Jack Stane national title defense, believe it or not. Anyway, Pretty Empowered win the NWA World Women's Tag Team titles from the Hex this month. They are sitting just shy of 200 days as champions right now, guys.
I'm a big fan of Ella Envy.
Yeah, me too. And Kenzie Page as well. Like, she is over this year. She loses a lot of matches when you look back at it, but they keep elevating her. It's like the frustration that she's feeling. She's gonna get like the big win, and she ends up hooking up with as a tag team with Ella. And of course, you know, the big turn comes at this event where she goes and joins Ella on the dark side of the floor, so to speak. But Trevor Murdoch begins his second and the better, frankly, of his two title reigns as world's champion when he defeats Sam Shaw, Nick Aldis, who he pins after the Bulldog, and Tom Latimer, and becomes world's heavyweight champion. What did you think, Jaden? What did you think when Murdoch filled that vacancy for the world title that was made when Matt Cardona was injured? He had just held the title before. Was it the logical choice to put it back on him?
I think Jaden might be drunk right now, so let me try to guess what Jaden would say. And I think he would say that Murdoch was such a not used well the first time around that it was kind of dangerous, right? To put the belt back on a guy who you kind of nerfed. You kind of nerfed it on that first title run. You didn't give him a great series of challengers. You didn't give him a great series of opponents. I mean, he was wrestling Mike Knox twice. Like, who the F is Mike Knox to get an NWA World title shot?
Twice.
Yeah, twice on pay-per-view. So they didn't put Trevor in a good position.
Right.
And so the Trevor that we got after that, the angry Trevor, the bitter Trevor, the Harley Race-esque Trevor, I felt was such a better representation of what, number one, the NWA needed, and two, what an NWA World Champion should be, that I felt like, yes, he was the right choice. because it had to kind of remedy what had went wrong in the previous run. Unfortunately, you had some pretty good competition in the ring with them. I don't think Aldis was the right choice. Sam Shaw proved to be not the right choice because he was signed to the WWE literally a few weeks later. But then you look at somebody like Tom Latimer, who might have benefited from that shot, might have changed the whole dichotomy of the NWA had Latimer won that title on that night. But you got to give it to Trevor Murdoch. I think his second run was leaps and bounds better than his first.
It was amazing. And I know like Jeremy and Dave and I have talked about it on the show. I'm sure you guys have too, where it was just, you'd have a guy like Cardona who's so, energized, like they took it from me and I have to have it back. And, like, this is ridiculous. And he's so over the top, like he should be, because that's what he's good at. And you just have Murdoch with like May Valentine going, what do you think? And he'd go, I don't care. We're going to war, sunshine. Like, and that was just stone cold killer, man. It was so much fun to see him in the second reign, and I hope he got that satisfaction out of being champ the second time. I just read today, going back and looking at this. Did you know after his first reign, he said in an interview that he went to Harley Race's grave, and that he laid the title on the top of his tombstone and said thank you. And I thought, there's a guy who's like, he is behind all of the character and the glam and of professional wrestling, the veil, if you want. He cares about this, and he is really honestly respectful. Like his character as a Harley guy is based on the fact that he's a Harley guy.
Yeah,
and I think it works.
And that's honestly, real quick, let me just say this. Yeah. And that's what I hated about Nick Aldis trying to co-opt that whole Harley thing. Oh, I was trained by Harley Race. You went to one camp, champ.
Yeah.
You're not trained by Harley Race. You were there. You paid money to be there. And that's fine. Like, look, that's how you grow as a performer. That's great. But don't tell me you were a Harley Race guy. You weren't.
Yeah.
You weren't. All right, there we go.
If you look at some of the matches later on, you'll see guys that, I'm sure that I'm going to shit on Nick Aldis right now. I think he's great, just like everybody else here. But you'll see matches as the year progresses where Nick Aldis is victorious by pinfall over insert name here. And I'm sure the argument he would have is they're getting elevated by being in the main event with me, the former world's champion. And that's a great argument. But there are so many Aldis over Odinson, Aldis over Flip Gordon. Like there's just go back and look, and you'll see them. And there's
elevates people every day. Elevators. They don't brag about it.
And they'll do the job.
Exactly.
Anyway, the Commonwealth Connection topple La Rebellion at Always Ready as well. They'll have a 77-day title reign. And Mims is apparently injured there. I don't know how true that is. It was hard to tell, and the coverage behind the scene didn't really give us a full view one way or the other. But frankly, his career to date has not recovered. And I used to wonder at the time, is that why he didn't go over on Tyrus? But the more the time has passed, I think it was probably the long-term plan that just wasn't going to happen. Regardless, let's go to July. We had that great story, I'm sure everyone's heard, about Natalia Markova and Mercurio stopping a robbery of Markova's purse and following the thief to a Walmart like 150 miles down the road when her purse goes missing off a plane. I love that story. That was my story. There is video image of Mercurio tackling a running thief in a Walmart and taking him to the ground. And I
tackled him too.
Yeah.
There were no soft gloves with that. That was just flat. I don't care if I break your back, your ribs.
Yeah. But to that point, and to his credit, he didn't hurt that guy.
Exactly.
And they didn't press charges.
Yep.
So that was interesting. So we get Odinson in July. He's now without Pero, and he's starting his rise up through the roster.
Real quick, when it comes to Mims, and I looked it up because I was curious as well. Apparently 27 weeks ago in Knoxville, Tennessee, he had in gear sitting in a hospital gurney. He wrote busted elbow, dislocated shoulder, and a wicked concussion. I thought I would be walking away with the NWA Television Championship. Instead, I'm walking away with a long road to recovery, even more anger and a serious focus to get back on my feet and get what should have been. Rebuilding isn't new to me, anyways. So, unless he's really good at faking stuff, he was injured.
Okay. Well, I don't want to say good, but because that's unfortunate, but it makes me feel better about the whole Mims Tyrus feud. What's still going on? The Mortons are still fighting the Fixers. That will continue until the end of time, until the sun explodes and the great sky god, whoever that might be, turns out the lights and asks them to leave. What else? We have the Race to the Chase tournament to see who will face Trevor at 74. This is obviously the start of something that's going to go very, very south. Boo, says the boss. I'll set you up. You got who have you got? You've got Knox, you've got Pope, Aldis, and Latimer all advancing through power in that tournament, with Aldis winning the shot from the four of them in that four-way match to face Trevor Murdoch. What did you think at the time?
Scoop, do you want to jump on this one?
Yeah, Dave, or what did you think when Aldis won that four-way match to get the shot?
I mean, it's almost like, okay, in case of emergency, break glass.
That's so true.
That they weren't willing to give anyone else a chance, because I mean, if you put Tom in there, even if Tom would have lost against Trevor, that would have been a hell of a fight. Plus, it would have put Tom up a level. He would have. It was his chance to go for the gold, and it builds him up to go after that gold. It gave him a taste of what it's like to almost be a champion.
Right. Yeah, it was. I mean, I rolled my eyes at the time when Aldis took that, won that match. But I think that is exactly right in case of emergency break glass. It's just we don't have anything else right now, I think was the thought. Let's go back to Nick.
Well, and it's and just like Scooby said, I mean, lying in the way for people who are there ready to go. You had Tom Latimer, a guy who, let's face it, maybe the closest thing to a Nick Aldis in the NWA today. You have the Pope, one of the smoothest talkers on the mic. Are you telling me that they couldn't sell a pay-per-view with either one of those guys and Trevor Murdoch? No, let's announce it as Nick Aldis, and then wait a minute.
Well, that's the thing that happens almost immediately, right?
They work themselves into a shoot. Yeah,
Billy Corgan and him go at it. We all go, is this a work? Is this a shoot? Is this a combo in between? Is Jaden back, or is he just hammered lying on the floor right now? Oh, there he is.
A little bit of both.
He might be eating cheeseburgers off the carpet as we speak.
Inevitably, Jaden, it becomes massive news when WPC says, you know what, I'm tired of his politicking. He doesn't get the shot anymore. I'm pulling it. And it's the beginning of the end of Nick Aldis carrying the NWA. When you hear about this through, I don't know, whatever social media sites maybe you're hearing it from, what did you think?
Well, I think I heard it first from alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source of news on the NWA. But first I thought it was a work.
And United Wrestling Network.
And Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, South Jersey's number one wrestling promotion. But I thought it was a work, honestly, for a little bit, because it seemed like something stupid Billy Corgan would do. And it didn't make sense, so that's why I really thought it was something Billy Corgan would do. But then when things started coming out, and I realized maybe it is time for them to part ways, I think it's best thing for Nick Aldis. As long as he doesn't show up in Impact, but if he goes somewhere, AEW or WWE or NXT, or even, honestly, I wouldn't even mind, even though I think it's more of a lateral move, I wouldn't mind MLW. I think it's the best for him. And I think now the NWA can get out from under his shadow. And unfortunately, they're under the shadow of Tyrus, and that's a really big shadow. It's like, blocking the sun. But I think it's going to be something good for the NWA itself if they knew how to take advantage of it, and that's a big F.
Yeah, it really, one of the guys, it might have been Dave or Jeremy, when we were talking about doing these kind of off-the-cuff awards for, whatever best of the year. I originally had Feud of the Year, and was really, I couldn't think of anything better than one of the suggestions. Was it one of you two guys, which was Billy Corgan versus Nick Aldis? This was, and I know Jeremy said you versus Anthony Mayweather.
Versus Crimweather, so
yeah. But this really did kind of become, in a way, the Feud of the Year, and it is a, for better or for worse, in the end, it is a shaking of the ground of the foundation for the NWA.
I think one of the worst things that came of this is the idea of a worked shoot with the owner. I mean, Billy said from jump point that this wasn't about him, that he wasn't going to be featured on TV. And over the course of 5 years, that slowly degraded to him literally being on the TV about every other week. And when you talk about, where could they have gone with that? How, I said it from the very beginning, they're going to work themselves into a shoot. And that's exactly what happened. Because, as we hear later, they were both working it, brother. We were working, brother. Unfortunately, Aldis started taking some offense to what Billy was saying. Billy was taking offense to what Aldis was saying. And at some point, it wasn't a work anymore. And my reaction to that, what's the end game? What could have possibly positive come from the owner of the company, basically degrading an employee? And what's the point of an employee being flat out insubordinate to the boss? It didn't make sense. You can't do Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon has a different dichotomy than William Patrick Corgan, and Steve Austin is a hell of a lot more charismatic than Nick Aldis. It just was never going to work the way they wanted it to, and it just shows you where Billy Corgan's mind is at in terms of the business and how little faith I have in some of his creative decisions.
There's part of, I think, what extends this feud to its end, Jeremy. There's no Empower card in August for the month that follows, and we know from Mickie James and what she said, both on the air and through just social media, how important the first one was for her in the advancement of women's wrestling. And it just didn't happen. And some things were said or suggested or said about why that was from Billy Corgan's camp. What did you think when this was going on in August?
This is where someone should have been there telling Billy, no, don't say that. Just go out there and tell them, you don't have the rights to be able to use the term empowered for an event now because Mickie James owns that.
Yeah, he went out and essentially, well, from what was reported, I'm just going to put it that way, he said that there wasn't enough available quality female talent. And I kind of read that at the time and just blinked, like, what?
Stupidest could have ever said.
If that's the case, Dave, if that's the case, then it makes me think, what did you do to your relationship with Impact?
Yeah.
You can't get some of this talent over here. What did you think?
I mean, it's one of those things of, what is it? Stay silent and not be thought an idiot, or open your mouth and prove the point. That it's like, just, it's better to say nothing, no comment, or Jeremy said, we don't have the rights to empower. At this time, we won't be doing a all-women's event until we can secure the use for another pay-per-view. If it doesn't happen, you can easily go online and type in empowered pay-per-view and see who owns the rights to that phrase or phrasings. So it's one of those things of just be quiet, just no comment. I'd rather people badmouth me about me not saying anything than me saying something stupid and them having tons of ammunition.
You know, what's funny is the reason that the Aldous James own the term Empower is because Billy Corgan had no issue with them owning the name Empower. You can't call something Empower, and I think it had 3 R's in it, when it's a derivative of the name that you own. Like, right? Like, you'd need his permission to do that.
Yep.
I can't make a product called Cola Coca because I think that would be a great, handle for my product. I would need their permission.
You might not be able to sell NWA Gold T-shirts because it has the letters NWA in it.
Can I just say that on Twitter right now we are having a contest to change our name, and we'll take NWA out of the name. We'll talk about that later.
And if you win, you get a very, very nice belt.
That's yes, we do. You do get a very nice belt. It's over there. I'll show you later. Listen, I got to push on because we're like an hour and a half already. Who's here right now with August? Roland? Okay. All right. Yes. So you get Larry D at this point. You see some of the talent and nothing. You're like, who? But some of the talent begins to get a little, who are these people? Larry D, Haley Shadows makes an appearance. I know some of these people are students of some of the talent that are on the NWA roster and, are getting a chance. Casey Rocks is out and about. But Rolando Freeman and the Spectaculars form up around the month of August. Rolando, of course, will go on to beat Matt Cardona twice. He will also beat Casey Rocks, Anthony Andrews, Jeremiah Plunkett, I think twice, and Sal in a 4-way match. He defeats the entire Cardona family. This is fairly recently, of course. And Jeremiah Plunkett again. He's the greatest wrestler that the Lightning One era has ever seen. If he's 4'10" and 80 pounds, then so am I. I mean, like if he's bigger than that, then it is. I wanted to keep everything positive, guys, with the award stuff. I didn't want to do even though they're fun, worst wrestler of the year, or worst gimmick, or anything like that. But if
Gags again.
What is it? Gags? Is Gags worse than Rolando?
Yeah,
that's what I was about to ask.
I mean, that's like saying you're the nicest guy in prison, but still, yeah, I think that's still worse.
Dave, is Gags worse than Rolando?
The gimmick, but not the wrestler.
Right. Right. I agree.
I think Gags is just a. What were you thinking?
I don't. It's funny because I maintain there's a place for Rolando Freeman in the NWA. He can be with the spectaculars. He'd be a feisty manager who grabs the leg and won't let go or whatever. But he destroyed Matt Cardona and I've heard through different sources this was Matt Cardona's idea, and that's great. But he has destroyed for me Matt Cardona as a credible threat to the NWA World Championship. It's without elevating Rolando Freeman himself, because why would you do that? Anyway, he's around in August, guys. It's important to note, I think, positively. You have Tyrus, Camille, and Homicide pulling an Al Davis from the NFL and just saying, "Just win, baby." That's all they do for this entire year, is just win, baby. And those are three champions that are consistent, whether or not you wanted them to have titles in the first place or were looking for anything. They just kept going throughout this entire year. The Fixers in August win a battle royale for the newly reinstated, newly recreated NWA United States Tag Team titles, which I had mixed emotions about and still do. Jeremy, the U.S. Tag Team titles coming back at the time, what were you thinking in August?
Too many belts was my initial reaction to it. We've already got so many. I liked the execution of it up until the very end. It was a good set of matches and stuff, but I just wish it would have been anybody else other than the Fixers. And then we've got the belts aren't their belts, and so we get new ones, but we still don't have the new ones, and it needs to be cleaned up really quick.
Yeah, I agree. Jaden, you've worked with Dr. Zirconium and independent wrestling outside of Dog, I think, too. Would you ever have a battle royal to crown tag team champions?
No. Well, I guess I can't say that Dr. Zirconium did, where the two winners teamed up to face the tag team champions, and they did win it. So that did happen on a card in Vineland, New Jersey. I think it was more of a they needed new tag champions, but there was nobody else available at the time. But it does happen, unfortunately. But still, technically, I guess it wasn't for the tag belts. It was just for challengers. So the challengers still won it. But I don't like having battle royals for anything other than if you happen to create a battle royal championship where you only win by winning the battle royal. I've seen independents do that. Not my favorite thing again. But I just don't like battle royals for any kind of championship other than, getting championship shots, like the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I remember Jay saying on your show, Jay, at the time, like, why wouldn't you just have made them the Crockett Cup winners, your U.S. Tag Team champions?
Because they had no idea that want to put the fixtures. They didn't want the fixtures to win the Crockett Cup, but they wanted to create a tag team title for the only tag team that was getting them any attention other than La Rebellion.
Right. Yeah, but even if the Briscoes won them, they could have dropped them to, and they made one appearance, I think, on Power. They could have dropped them immediately.
Well, I think they had 2 appearances on Power because they did wrestle La Rebellion, and I believe they also wrestled the Commonwealth Connection.
Yeah, okay. In August, you know what? Homicide beats both the Mortons, and Murdoch defends against Tyrus and wins. That's not the end of that, of course, because Tyrus he hasn't cashed in on that Lucky 7 on the TV title. He just has a shot. It's a bit, if I remember correctly, a bit convoluted, but he doesn't win in his first attempt. this kind of creates a bit of a new Tyrus where he's a little darker and more focused. And I shouldn't have let, my cousin off the hook there. I should have drilled him with that ring bell and taken what's mine. And it really sets the course to Tyrus getting his second shot in the months ahead. The question Mac debuts. We'll move on.
Yeah, I thought you were staying positive.
I do. I want to say this real quick about Tyrus. When he came into the 74th anniversary show, even though there was all kinds of bullshit surrounding the circumstances he got there, he came in looking good.
Yeah.
And I mean,
he did.
For Tyrus, he looked great. And his mobility improved, his endurance improved, his overall body shape improved. And you have to give the man credit, whether you like him or not. He put in some work to get into this opportunity. He didn't come in there at the same Tyrus he was when he won the TV title.
But he didn't put in as much work as that ring did whenever he decided to come off the second turnbuckle. Just saying.
Yeah, that shall live in meme infamy forever, I think. September, Dak Draper debuts in the national #1 contender qualifier, Dave. And he's the first guy that I can think of in the Power USA era who doesn't lose his opening match, or like Thrillbilly, lose a whole bunch of matches in a row, pretty much like everybody else. He goes undefeated all the way to the championship. What did you think of Dak at this time? Did you know him already?
I had seen him wrestle some in ROH up here in Baltimore. He has a very good upside. I mean, he has size, 6'5", 250 plus. It's just really unsure what direction he is going. He hasn't built a character that you can really connect to as of yet.
Right.
But I mean, he has the size, he has the look, he can wrestle, and I mean, it's just figuring out where to plug him in where he doesn't get overlooked and he doesn't fall down the ladder too fast.
Yeah.
That I mean, if Billy's going for the bigger guys, hey, he's a big guy, but he's in shape. Figure out what you can do with him. I mean, I put him and Clearwater together. Have him go for a belt, but a lower belt to get some reps in.
Okay.
Yep, I would agree. If I had Dak Draper on my roster, I think I would use him exactly that way. I'd ask if Quinn McKay was available, but because I think that would be – he's great on the mic.
Yeah.
And she's no slouch either, so I think that would be a great pairing.
Not for nothing, but I recently heard Maddie Rinkowski, also known as just Maddie, interview Dak, at the tapings, and he said he was single.
Ooh.
So I just point that out. Maybe Dak Draper is single. Maybe the man who plays Dak is not. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we don't know. That's interesting.
Maybe that just means he's not a tag team.
And then later that night, he teamed up with Mims. So go figure.
Thrillbilly's getting some traction finally in the NWA around this time. He's getting some wins. He beats Mayweather. He beats Judias in the semifinal to get in that tournament as well. Kerry Morton has also been building his brand over this time. He wins that 6-man scramble for a shot at the World Junior title. Pretty Empowered get their own show, and Tyrus, most importantly, I guess, cashes in the World Television title in late September for his shot at the World Championship. He wants a second. It's interesting that he still kind of holds on to it for a while. And in fact, if you kind of look at different sources as to when he abdicates, the pages sort of go, oh, like it's you decide somewhere between this date and this date. I'm not really sure. You know what? I did mention Max earlier, but in October, I thought this was probably more groundbreaking than maybe anyone else here might. But Max the Impaler was in a TV title qualifying match against men, and I kind of went, "That's, if you are a either portraying a character or are a person that identifies as gender neutral, then you got to do both." And Max is the perfect character to be doing that. I was pleased, Jeremy, to see Max in that match. The reaction to it as well from the guys in the ring was very uneasy. There was a not really sure how to approach them, and I thought it was pretty cool that Max's approach to them was to smash them in the face.
It was perfect the way that they did that, because even the guys recognized that Max is a true force to be dealt with, and that speaks volumes right there.
Yeah. The Now, who had just come back the previous month or so from the first time since the Crockett Cup, started getting some wins, and so did the Country Gentlemen, which was, I've never really bought into them, but I know that there's a lot of Alliance family members out there who have. What else happened that month for September or October, I guess, rather, sorry. Oh boy, question mark 2 debuts. Moving on. Kylan King takes that #1 contendership from Taya Valkyrie for the World Women's title.
Can I know we're trying to get through it, but can I jump back to Max the Impaler real quick? It's something that I heard recently. Bully Ray said on Busted Open, and he went back in time a little bit to when Jericho and Chyna wrestled for the Intercontinental title match. Now, if you've listened to Jericho talk about that since, he hated putting over Chyna. He hated having that match with her. But, Bully Ray pointed out, hey, if Chyna could hold the IC title 20 years ago, why can't Rhea Ripley or Charlotte Flair hold the IC title today?
Yep.
And I wonder, and I'll be the first one to admit I'm not a huge intergender wrestling fan. I'm not a huge, that style of wrestling doesn't really interest me. But what is stopping Max the Impaler from competing in the men's side on a more permanent basis?
I don't know. I don't entirely agree.
Booking is what's stopping.
Yeah. Paladins had some comments about women's wrestling in the chat that I don't agree with, but I do agree, whether I like it or not, that I don't believe that it largely draws crowds. That being said, and my wife just said this yesterday, she would go and watch Camille fight anybody. She has no interest in going to see Tyrus defend the title. And if you look at the matches of the year that have gone over this past year, I would submit to you that if we were picking an athlete of the year, we talked about this very early on in the show, it would be Camille.
Yeah.
And that she's a draw for me.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know, to answer your question. I mean, if Max is doing it, you got to think, well, why wouldn't Camille then? Did you ever hear that story, Jay, or any of you guys, about that JR told about Jeff Jarrett being told you're going to drop the Intercontinental title to Chyna?
No, I don't think I ever have.
From Jim Ross says, he said this is what the plan is, and so Jarrett said, I'm going to walk around the arena. This is the amount of money. It's $100,000 is what you're going to have to give me to do this. By the time I get back around, I need your answer. He came back around, and Ross was like, and he said, now it's 200,000. And went around the arena again. They went, okay. And apparently got his payday.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know. That's just a random story, but
I mean, I heard that that's the main reason why there was some bad blood between Jarrett and the WWE, because Vince McMahon always felt like he was held up, but at the same time, Jarrett's contract had expired. And he didn't have to do shit. He could have just walked out with the belt and threw it in the trash like a Legendary Blaze. So the fact that he did the job, I mean, he should have been compensated for it.
Well, let's be honest here. Vince was a stick-up man of his own as well. Yeah.
Sure. By the way, throwing it in the trash like a Lunder Blaze. Have you seen the Danny Deals ads for merch on the show? Man, I laughed. Where Medusa off camera's like, get my name out of your voice, and he's like hiding behind Candy, going, I'm gonna have to make trash cans with her face on it. I would buy one. Anyway, Control Your Narrative's getting a push in October, guys. The TV title match, when everything is said and done around a tournament with Kazan and Clearwater, is a dud. There's no winner. It's pointless. They're going to fight at Hard Times 3. Speaking of pointless, this is where we get another Velvet After Dark episode.
Didn't we clear that up with penicillin last time?
Yeah, well, it came back with a vengeance. This time it had clothes on, so they made a point of telling us that. In November, hey, I mean, we're almost caught up right now. Nick Aldis gives notice, of course.
Yeah.
It's the biggest news. He's subsequently, the following day, suspended by the National Wrestling Alliance, and probably their biggest story of the year.
Suspended with pay. Basically, they said, hey, champ, don't even bother showing up, but we'll still pay you. No big deal. Why don't you just fire the guy? What the hell?
Yeah.
That's like the least ballsiest move that William Patrick Corgan's ever done. He just, you don't want to be here? Fine. I'll keep paying you. Just go home.
Right.
Weak.
He wouldn't have the option. He couldn't have fired him anyway. He has a contract. He was going to pay him no matter what. He should have just let him wrestle his match, put the guy over.
Yeah.
Do a little swan song, make a big deal, maybe sell a pay-per-view as the potential last match pay-per-view to see all this. It's all stupid. He could have at least done something to make some money out of it.
Or what about a loser leaves town match?
Well, he already knew he was leaving, so that wouldn't have helped. If they knew he was leaving and he gave his notice and kept it quiet, then they could have done that. It might have been a surprise. But honestly, though, it's Nick Aldis's last match. He could either put over somebody or go out as the conquering champion. They may have gotten a couple extra ticket sales. They might have gotten an extra pay-per-view buy or two. Instead, they just let him walk right out the door without putting anybody else over or any capitalization, anything out of that.
It was loss. Lose. I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was just a waste of everything, a waste of resources, waste of potential. I don't know.
It's just the stupidest when somebody who had long hair decides to shave their head instead of doing a loser leave town match and getting a payoff out of it.
Right, that's a great example. Clearwater wins the television title.
Best thing they did.
Yeah. What else in November? Kerry wins the World Junior.
DK's favorite moment.
DK's favorite moment?
Yeah, right, Jay?
Yeah, he was a big fan.
And Tyrus, of course, wins the world title. It almost, Dave, which is the bigger story in November, that Aldis is out or that Tyrus is in?
I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of another. I mean, I don't think either one was good for the NWA. But, I mean, Aldis had to go. And they didn't have to put the title on Tyrus. I mean, he's held the title now for almost 40 days. And, I mean, if if they're going to pick and choose what they follow of, oh, I'm going to defend the belt every 30 days, I'm going to defend it every 45 days. They just need to decide, okay, we're the NWA. These are our quote-unquote basic rules. It's not like the old NWA where every 30 days the champion was actually a champion and defended the belt. We pick and choose when they do that. This is the new kayfabe.
Yeah.
They just need to decide what world they're living in.
Yeah. Do you think they've done that? Or do you think it's just kind of, I don't know, let's try this?
Well, I mean, they jump. So it's almost like, I mean, they're not sure where they are. They say they want to promote legacy and tradition, but then they do stupid shit like
Gags the Gimp.
Gags the Gimp, great wrestler, bad gimmick.
Yeah.
Or it's just they pick and choose what they want to push, and unfortunately, it all falls to what Billy likes, and they can't do tapings quick enough to turn on a heel. That if something happens, it has to ride out for 8 to 12 weeks before they can make adjustments. The smartest thing they could do is do tapings every 6 weeks and then figure out where they're going to place their pay-per-views and where they're going to have tapings.
Mm-hmm.
That if they do it every 6 to 7 weeks, I mean, you figure it out, okay, we can make adjustments that if we're not getting a good response on what's happening, we can change it within 3-4 weeks at the latest.
Right. You know, Paladin's written this thing Jace put up here. Must be personal for all this to do everything a week before the NWA pay-per-view. He probably wanted to affect sales. He mentioned something about, now that you've seen the card, you see why I can't be part of this.
Yeah.
So I think there may be some truth in that. It certainly could appear that way. You know, and then December we get into the Revolution Rumble, which I loved. Red Titus won. I was very happy with that. And we got into the Champion Series, which kind of mixes stuff up, and that's where we are now. I would suggest, guys, as we are sit here at the 2-hour mark right now, that we just do USA in Power next week and talk about the Alliance, like just to quickly the awards that we threw up on Twitter. We had lots of votes, and call it a day. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't think we have the time to cover Power, like you said. So maybe we should just emphasize the awards and maybe call it a night.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll cut USA in Power. We'll just do the awards and who did we lose? We just lost Dave. Yeah, and then to say that's it. It's 2 hours. That's good. All right, cool. That was the year in review, man. That it was fun to look back today. I'm off this week on vacation, so I just kind of, poked around on what happened in previous months, and it was fun to see. I know you guys and the Alliance guys won't be back next week. You got the week off, but I think we'll be here if Jeremy's around in a week from now. I know Dave and I are. So we'll figure that out. Maybe we can do Power and USA from 2 week period and just do that. We've lost Dave again. Let's look. Listen, we put up some in our Discord, the Alliance blog Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just get Dave back in here.
Somebody please send me the link for that, by the way.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll get it to you.
We put up some, give us your nominations for 7 different categories. I originally tried 9, but Feud of the Year couldn't work, and Match of the Year was just too many, and Twitter only allows you to have like 4 potential answers anyway. So I did the best I could based off of the nominations, right?
There's only one real feud of the year, and that's Billy Corgan versus Logical Booking.
Hey, that's been a winner now 2 years in a row. Then.
So the first one off the bat, NWA Announcer of the Year. I put up from our suggestions: Joe Galley, Kyle Davis, Mae Valentine, and then write in your vote. So there were votes for Tim Storm and for Velvet Sky as well. But with 56% of the vote, it was a runaway. It was Joe Galley was considered the best announcer in the NWA. My pick was Kyle Davis, but I think Joe largely does a pretty good job, guys. What do you guys think?
I think I kind of lost a little love for Joe at the anniversary show. I felt like he went full. He went full. He went for it, and I didn't enjoy it. I felt like he was channeling his inner Jim Ross a little too much. But Joe Galley, every other time has been pretty solid. Kyle Davis is a good dude. I like Kyle Davis a lot, and I think he's very professional up there. So I do agree with you, Tim. I think I like Kyle in that spot, but I don't think there's a wrong answer between those two.
Did nobody get votes for Raven?
And he wasn't around long enough. Tim, you're muted still.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Manager of the Year. So it wasn't a runaway, but Aaron Stevens got 26% of the vote. Pollo Del Mar got 28% of the vote. But with 38% of the vote, Austin Idol, who should have won with as much of 50% of the vote or higher, his men have all the gold. I don't know what else you need, right? I mean, 2 weeks in a row.
Obnoxious or annoying, maybe.
Well, if that was a category, I think he'd win at that. Do you guys agree? Disagree?
I 100% agree. I think he was the right guy. He had a person holding a title throughout the entire year. He had Tyrus hold the TV title all year long, and then when Tyrus cashed out, he got 3 more champions in exchange. Basically, I mean, well, not exactly, but you know what I'm saying.
And it completely, I agree. It completely makes sense. You know, that's not who I voted for, but yeah, I mean, the guy's a proven winner right now. How can you argue with that?
Yeah. I think honestly, in most of these, you'll find probably I would think we're going to probably agree that usually the correct person won. But Most Improved Wrestler of the Year, you had Colby Carino, 24% of the vote. Kenzie Page, 26% of the vote. She really came a long way this year. But 45% basically, Kerry Morton, who came into this year being Kerry Morton, ended up with the NWA World Junior Championship. I voted for Colby. What did you guys think overall?
I voted for Trevor. If I remember right, I put Trevor in as the Most Improved Wrestler of the year.
Yep, it was a fair vote. Yep,
and I still feel that way. I think we all pretty well knew that Terry was good anyways. I don't see where he's improved all that much, but just a whole lot of wrestling. So.
Sure. What do you think, Dave?
I myself had Colby just because, I mean, it was the improvement was jumping from having the fixers backing him to him being his own person. And I mean, he can go in the ring, he can talk, he has all the tools that are needed. Kerry is still building on it, where I think they went with name recognition because of who his dad is why he's in the position he is in. He's a good wrestler. but he still needs to build and improve.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, we'll see where he goes and who he ends up fighting for, or who he defends the belt against. And if we see improvement this next year, then I can go with most improved. But I mean, he's done a good job so far. But I think a lot of it was resting on who his dad is and the family name.
I don't remember who I voted for, but I think I voted for Kenzie Page. And the reason why is, like, in the chat, somebody said, I think it was Dodie said that she started off the year as like a jobber to the stars. And there's some truth to that. Yeah. But like Jaden said earlier too, it's like steel sharpens steel. She got in the ring with some of the best female competitors in the NWA, and now she's a women's tag team champion. And they thought so highly of her, they made her one of the captains for the Champions series. And I really feel like every time I watch Kenzie Page go out there, I not only had she improved her look, her physical attributes, like she lost some weight in a very healthy way. She looks like I'm not trying to be insulting here, but you could tell she's put some effort into the gym, and her wrestling's gotten more crisp. Every time I see her out there, she just looks more and more impressive to me, and I think that's why I voted for her, but now I don't remember.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kenzie Page is the cute blonde.
No, pink hair, pink highlights, or whatever they're called.
Which one was Kenzie? I can't remember.
So Ella Envy is the one that I'm a big fan of, and she's the curvier of the two.
Okay, I was just making sure you weren't going for a specific type.
No. I was putting over Kenzie. She really put her ass in the gym, worked hard.
Yeah.
NWA Faction of the Year was not a runaway. It should have been.
Yeah.
But the Cardona family ends up second with 47% of the vote. Idolmania gets 49% of the vote. And as Gary Horn says, how is this even a debate? Why there's like, how can this possibly, like, they have all the gold.
All of it.
So that's who wins that.
First of all, they don't have 74 wrestlers, so they can't have all the gold.
That's a good point.
Tag Team of the Year, the Fixers get 30% of the vote. I saw Wrecking Ball Legursky retweeting it, going, Fixers rule, vote Fixers. They got 30% of the vote. La Rebellion gets 50% of the vote, with Commonwealth Connection picking up 10. I think that seems right to me, given they're two-time champions. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
It's further margin, though, I feel.
Okay. And Female Wrestler of the Year, it's an absolute runaway. Although, I don't see how it could be any other way. Maxie Impaler gets 10%. Kylan King gets 13%. The other 72 and a bit gets pulled by the one-time champ, the Brickhouse Camille. Female Wrestler of the Year beats everyone.
I don't think Max the Impaler should be in that category because she doesn't identify as that gender.
I had someone bring that up with me on Twitter, and I said I agree, but they primarily wrestle women, and I wanted them to be included in somewhere.
Okay, so, that's fair.
If I did a person of the year poll, they'd be the only one in it. So, or non-gender specific. Anyway. So yeah, Camille is the champ there. And then finally, Male Wrestler of the Year. Jordan Clearwater gets 15% of the vote. This is a guy who, if you're thinking outside the NWA, has also spent time not only at the end of this year as NWA World Television Champion, he has been the UWN World Champion for a good portion of this year. Homicide gets 25% of the vote because of his 17 title defenses in a long period of time as champ. I know Jack Steen got some votes. Trevor Murdoch got some votes. But Tyrus wins in this category with almost 33% of the vote. He spent more than the entire year as World Television Champion, and he cashes it in to become World's Heavyweight Champion. Like we said at the beginning of the show, I don't know how Tyrus wins Male Wrestler of the Year, but in this particular instance, I don't know how he doesn't.
Right.
Jay doesn't know what to say.
I'm at a loss for words, and that usually doesn't happen. When you look on the surface, when you say, hey, he never even lost the TV title, right? He didn't lose the TV title. He won the world title. He had to abdicate the television title. I mean, these are accolades of a hero, of a champion, of a winner. But I'm not a huge fan of Tyrus, and when I watch him in the ring, I don't want to say the man deserves this award, but the man deserves this award. I think I voted for Homicide because I felt like Homicide took the title to new heights. I mean, obviously it was a brand new championship, but by attaching his name to it, created instant credibility, validity to the division. He went outside of the NWA to defend the title. That's something that's big for me when I see Jack Stain, or excuse me, when I saw Trevor Murdoch defend the national title outside of the NWA, when I saw Camille continuously defend that title outside of the NWA. That's a big thing for me, and Homicide was able to do that.
Yeah. Check your mics, guys. There's a lot of feedback coming through. Maybe just mute when we're not talking. Dave, who did you vote for?
I voted for Trevor just because the second go around, they actually did what should have been done the first go around and not try to hot shot to Cardona. I see what they were wanting to do with moving the title over to Cardona, but being that the taping schedule of the NWA is so infrequent, you can't grab the magic when it happens and have it happen 12 weeks later. It doesn't continue. That first couple weeks could have been good of Cardona as champion, but once he was injured, Matt is a now wrestler. And what I mean by now is he's looking at what he's going to be wrestling today and tomorrow. He doesn't look more than 2 or 3 days ahead. So in taping, it sort of shuts down the creativity of how he as a champion could work. That you have to remember, this is my second day of taping, but we're 6 weeks in, and I have to refer to this as, oh, we're coming up on this pay-per-view or this, and it's not actually happening for another 3 months.
Right.
But in stuff like that, I mean, Trevor, I just have a soft place in my heart for Trevor, being that he came back and he's wrestling in the style of Harley and in the spirit of Harley. That Harley is, 8-time champion, but Harley didn't always need to be champion to be Handsome Harley Race. He was just a badass no matter if he had the 10 pounds of gold or not. And I mean, this is what Trevor is. That Trevor not being in the title picture doesn't hurt him. It helps him when he wrestles others that are needing to be brought up the ladder. That in a loss, you're losing to a 2-time NWA heavyweight champion. There's no shame in that.
It's a great pick. Who'd you pick, Jeremy?
I honestly don't remember. I honestly can't remember. I want to say I picked Trevor, though.
Yeah.
I think I picked Trevor.
Jaden, who's the male NWA Wrestler of the Year in your estimation?
The male NWA Wrestler of the Year to me is Homicide because he defended the championships the most, and also he single-handedly put the junior heavyweight championship on the map. If he was still champion, I think he would be probably have garnered a few extra votes as part of that, and that's who I would have voted for if I even knew the Discord was around.
Yeah, it's on my Twitter page, but that's okay. Well, maybe if Jay lets us, we'll do a big thing next year and I don't know, make something more than just a Twitter poll out of it so that it can be. You're on mute, Jay.
I don't have a Twitter, just in case you care to. I have no social media. But if you want to follow some good social media, make sure you follow all the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators and the AllianceWrestling.com social media pages.
I love that guy. Real quick, you are right, Tim. This was a great idea. We tried this years ago when it was just the three of us, DK, Jaden, and I. We called it the Talkies because we used to do Talk NWA. But I really feel like this has some potential. And I think next year we'll make sure that it goes on the main site, and we'll do this a little bit better. I'm already in my mind thinking, how can I make this year-end show better next year? And it's going to be in taking better notes in 2023, that's for sure.
Yep. Same here.
I think that's it, guys. I think we're done, and that's the year in review, and we'll come back. The other Alliance guys will be back next week. We'll do NWA USA in Power and kind of cover it up for the end of the year and maybe look a little forward. But I want to say, hey, listen to you guys here and DK and not only Chris and Lamb, but everyone who's online and everyone who's been supporting us. The people who got the YouTube page, Jay, to over the 1,000 subscriber mark earlier in the year, and just like the amazing community that you've built here that we've all been able to become part of. Like everybody's an Alliance guy, everybody's an Alliance girl, and it's been an amazing, and I'm sure on behalf of Dave and Jeremy, thank you for letting us use your platform to do this self-indulgent NWA talk that we love so much. It's great. Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate it.
Well, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thanks to you guys because this is the community. This has been in the plan for many years, as Jaden would know, as DKM would know. We've had other people jump on and be a part of the Alliance. We've had writers, and and this isn't against Kevin. We still love Kevin, but I don't know that Kevin's coming back anytime soon. It makes my heart happy to know that we are doing it the right way. We are being critical when it needs to be critical. We're being positive when it should be positive. We are singing the praise of the National Wrestling Alliance and only pointing out the things that we think could be better. And none of this comes from a malicious place. We're all coming from hey, we want to see this brand thrive. We want to see it succeed. Yeah. And you're right. It's not just J Cal's Alliance. It's not just Jaden or DKM's Alliance. This is a community that I didn't build. We built. We are the Alliance. That hashtag is 100% legit because everyone who's in the show now, watching the chat, everyone who participates, anyone who's retweeting, anyone who's sharing the Instagram stuff or our YouTube videos, everybody that's doing that is helping to build this community. And the fact that we were a year ago just a few hundred followers on this YouTube channel, now to be over 1.1K, and not just here on YouTube, but on Spotify. I'm watching our views go up on Spotify, where it used to be like 2 or 3 people watching it a month or a week, or now we're getting like 40 or 50 people watching every week. So there really is this growth that is happening. It's exciting. We welcome everyone to be a part of this, and who knows, maybe in the next year, maybe you'll see more additional content coming to our YouTube page, and maybe we'll see. I see what Luthez said, made me laugh. Alliance Avengers Assemble. I mean, it's really what it is. And we do this because it's fun for us, but we also do it because we love this community. And so I'm going to keep plugging away in 2023. I hope you guys are too. And I know that our pal Jeremy's going to start doing some of his own stuff. Please watch that. Please help support him. We talk about Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. If you guys haven't already subscribed to that channel, please do so. Well, let's support the community that's supporting us. Special shout out to Rick Del Santo. Make sure you go follow the Pro Wrestling Zone podcast. If you haven't liked, comment, and subscribed on this video, do so. Make sure you're following Scooby and Jeremy and Tim and DKM and Kevin Frazier. And because Jaden isn't on social media, follow Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators on social media. And let's build this community further in 2023. That's all I want to see is just more growth, more people in the chat. Let's have fun.
And Samara, I want to take a moment and point out your comment that's what we set out to do. We're fans of this. We're lifelong fans of this. And, we may not always agree on everything. You may not always agree with everything that we say, but this is just how we feel. And I'm glad that you enjoy it and you look forward to it and that you found us. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you.
I think the social medias by now everybody knows at the Alliance blog, right?
Yes,
Jaden, you want to pitch dog before we go out?
I mean, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator, South Jersey's #1 promotion. You can check out our website at dawgprowrestling.com. That's dogprowrestling.com. That'll give you all the links to the socials because I have no idea what they are. I didn't even know what social media was until J. Cal explained it to me. And make sure you buy some W and make sure you buy some alliance-wrestling.com merchandise. If you don't have the mug, then what are you doing with your life? Everybody here probably has the mug, right?
Yes.
Am I the only one? And also, make sure.
I'll be ordering mine next week.
Well, good. Santa will bring it to you in a stocking. That'll be perfect. Or maybe a little late Christmas gift.
Yep.
Or Hanukkah gift or Kwanzaa gift or Festivus, of course, for the rest of us.
Yep.
And just, guys, if we're the Alliance Avengers, make sure I'm Captain America because I'm definitely America's ass.
America's asshole.
Hey, you're trying to get us demonetized?
Hey, no, we're trying to be monetized here. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't want to pitch my stuff other than Twitter at NWA Gold _. I'm changing my name. I'm taking the NWA out. I'm still all NWA belts, but I am giving away one of the last of my replicas, the 10 pounds of gold. Pick the name of that. If I pick the name that you suggest, you're the first one to suggest it. This is yours. I will mail it to you. We've done belts before. We've done all kinds of stuff. Right there. So yeah, man. So head over there and make your suggestion, and that's it. You want to take us home, boss?
Yeah. Hey guys. Again, we thank you so much for being here. Next Tuesday, there is no pre-party, but Wednesday the other Alliance guys will be here, and we'll be celebrating all things the National Wrestling Alliance. But until then, gentlemen, ladies, and everyone in between, thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.